it's still better. Network marketing is better. It's better than working for somebody else. It's better than a traditional sales job. It's better than blue collar work. It's better than working in a corporation. It's better than being an investor and dealing with all the risk. It's the lowest risk, highest return opportunity on planet Earth.
Ew. My journey in multi-level marketing began in 2013 when I was a hairstylist in a small town in Missouri. I was just looking for a protein shake to help me on my health journey at the time when I came across a product I was interested in. I made a purchase but didn't want to sign up for the discount that was offered. However, 3 months later, I decided I did want that discount because the shake was pretty expensive, as most MLM products are. That's when I reached out to the #1 top earner in the company after seeing her interviewed by the CEO. She told her heartbreaking story of how she had been a broke bartender who went on to earn millions and radically change her and her family's life forever. At the time, I was in physical therapy 3 times a week for a neck injury, and the medical debt was starting to pile up. I knew I already liked the product, so I thought, why not try the business and see how it goes? In the beginning, I didn't share it openly. I was nervous and shy and didn't want to come off as that person online. But after my upline, the woman I joined under, recommended me books and put me in training groups to get me out of my comfort zone, I slowly became willing to do things that made me uncomfortable. New distributors were indoctrinated with non-stop trainings, corporate calls, and team meetings over Zoom, hundreds of PDFs in the company's back office, and private Facebook groups that weren't open to non-distributors. There was always non-stop manufactured excitement, recognition posts, and the belief that we were on a mission to help people was stated daily, if not multiple times a day. As I began to share more about the product and why I liked it, I began making more money. At the time, I thought I was seeing small bits of success because I was doing everything my upline told me to do. I was reading the self-help books, I was working my business day and night and on weekends, and I was making social media posts about the product. I didn't realize at the time I was seeing success because I had a larger network than the average person. 6 months before joining my first MLM company, I had built thousands of followers by sharing my weight loss journey publicly on a Facebook page. I was also a hairstylist who was booked 6 months ahead and didn't take new clients anymore. I not only had a large network online, but in my community as well. The first 2 years, I drank the Kool-Aid and was ecstatic with what I was doing. I was able to quit my job, recruit other women to join, and even leased a new car. It wasn't until my 3rd year when I got to peek behind the curtain of the 1% and started to become worried that what I was doing maybe wasn't what I thought it was. If I hit my monthly quota, I was granted one 15-minute phone call with my upline a month, where I would ask her why most of the women on my team weren't earning money and how I could help them succeed. I was told they have to help themselves. If they really wanted it bad enough, they would make it happen. They just aren't working hard enough. This is a lie the MLM industry loves to perpetuate over and over again. The lie that if a person really just believed in themselves enough, or if they read enough self-help books, or put themselves out of their comfort zone more, they would see success. This dogma is repeated in the self-help books recommended by the MLM company and by MLM coaches and trainers who want to sell you their courses, online memberships, private coaching, live events, and speaking gigs. MLM CEOs and coaches never tell new recruits, you won't see success until you build a large following. No, they tell new recruits that if they don't succeed, it's because they are failing, and usually failing by one of 3 ways. 1, you don't believe in yourself enough and need to work on your mindset. Or 2, you are failing because you're a negative person and therefore attracting only negativity to you and manifesting it. Or 3, because you're lying and not doing the tasks you say you are. MLM companies love to teach distributors that the average person is lazy and satisfied with barely getting by. They even have a phrase they repeat often, which says, JOB, J-O-B, stands for just over broke. Education is demeaned as a waste of time, and regular jobs are vilified because they say employees are slaves to a boss with no chance of ever becoming the CEO. Somebody listening to this right now who has never worked in an MLM company might think this sounds crazy, and they would be absolutely right. It's why psychologists call these companies commercial cults, and they don't just hurt people financially, as 99.4% of people in an MLM lose money, but they hurt people emotionally and mentally through love bombing, toxic positivity, black and white thinking, and the fairy tale mentality. But we'll get into all that in a second. In my first MLM company, I started seeing disturbing and contradictory behavior by the CEO and became annoyed that my upline never wanted me to take any time off. Everything felt so suffocating. But MLM distributors are taught to believe taking any time away from the MLM, aka your business, is selfish because then you won't be offering an amazing opportunity to others. Therefore, you won't be helping more people. At the time, I thought the behavior I was witnessing and the unhappiness I saw behind the scenes by top distributors who promoted an enthusiastic lifestyle online was just from the company I was in. I thought that company was a bad apple, but I still believed in the MLM industry. Distributors are taught to believe the network marketing industry isn't perfect, it's just better. But when I joined 2 other companies and got to the top 1% in those as well and saw similar tactics and behavior, I realized everything I had been promoting was a lie. It wasn't until a year after leaving the industry and learning about something called the BITE model, which stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotional control, that I learned exactly what had happened to me and so many others. Studying information provided by psychologists and cult experts explained why, after 5.5 years in the industry, I walked away as a shell of the person I once was, like many ex-cult members do. Love bombing is an emotional manipulation tactic used often by narcissists, cults, and high-control organizations or groups. Love bombing is an attempt to influence a person by demonstrations of attention and affection. It can be used in different ways, and psychologists have identified love bombing as a part of a cycle of abuse and warn against it. MLM companies use love bombing the instant a new recruit joins what they call their team. You are showered with kindness and attention, urged to share your biggest goals and dreams with the team, and then you're praised for having such a large vision and positive mindset. You're told anything is possible if you just believe. But all this love is conditional. Black and white thinking has also been called all or nothing thinking and is an opinion that claims there are only 2 alternatives when there might be more. One example is when people say you are either for this or you're against it. The truth is, the world is a complicated place, and when it comes to most issues, there are usually many alternatives. MLM companies use black and white thinking as an isolation tactic as a way to manipulate members to cut off friends or family members who question the company or the product. This is done slowly and over time by teaching distributors that any questioning of the product's effectiveness or the company's ethics is negative and should not be tolerated. Distributors are told if friends and family members truly supported them, those friends and family members would not question them and in fact help them in their new business by buying product or joining them in this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's taught that being around any type of negativity will cause them to manifest more negativity and therefore hurt their business. So it's best to cut toxic friends and family members out if you want to succeed. This is how relationships become strained or severed once somebody joins an MLM company or cult. Licensed therapist and cult expert Stephen Hassan reminds us in his book, Combating Cult Mind Control, that any legitimate organization or group will be able to stand up to scrutiny.
The key thing is tuning into your own inner voice and your own conscience and know that if something's legitimate, it will stand up to scrutiny, and to not be manipulated through guilt or fear.
Let's talk contextually, because this isn't just for people who are in cults, right?
Right.
Brainwashing or mind control can happen in a variety of circumstances, whether they're religious or political.
It could be a controlling boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife. It could be a political institution.
So mind control is everywhere.
The destructive end of it, there's deception, there's manipulation, there's guilt, there's fear. If you don't do what you're told, then terrible things are going to happen to you. You should feel guilty, etc. The bottom line is you should be in control of your life. The locus of control should be inside of you and not with some other person or group or ideology. Mind control groups have a black and white, us versus them, good versus evil, very simplistic. So you're either on the inside and you have the truth, and you're out on the outside and you're the devil, or there's something wrong with you. If a group says don't read this book or don't talk to this person because they're an ex-member or a critic, go and talk to them right away and make up your own mind whether what they say is real. And the tricky thing with religious organizations is they frame it as you have to obey God, but you're in a human institution whose leaders say that they represent God and they know what God wants, and that's the question mark.
Toxic positivity is the overgeneralization of a happy, optimistic state that results in the denial, minimization, and invalidation of the authentic human emotional experience. Toxic positivity is, at best, unhelpful, and at worst, emotionally damaging. An example of toxic positivity we see all over social media today are the Pinterest-like quotes that preach things like good vibes only. In an MLM company, cults and high control organizations, joy and happiness are the only accepted emotions one can show. Toxic positivity is used over and over again as a way to get somebody to shut up and not question anything or say how they truly feel for fear of being deemed negative. But the truth is, our emotions are valid, deserve to be expressed, and anger, sadness, and grief are part of the human experience. Repressing those natural human emotions can cause anxiety, depression, and more. The fairy tale mentality says that if you believe hard enough and if you are a good enough person, all the success in the world will be yours. This type of doctrine is also part of the prosperity gospel mixed with some law of attraction, but unfortunately, it's just not true, as bad things happen to good people all the time. But people who use the fairy tale mentality or toxic positivity will say things like the average person is lazy and doesn't work hard, and that if they just had the belief, they wouldn't struggle in life. This is not only a damaging mindset, but a privileged one. A homeless person on the street isn't there because he or she didn't believe hard enough in themselves, and believing hard enough won't get them off the street either. A person who experiences sexual assault did not manifest that horrible and illegal experience because they had negative thoughts. This type of manifestation mindset is not only toxic, but downright dangerous as it justifies victim blaming. MLM companies like to say any struggle you have is your fault. The MLM or the upline can never be at fault. This is called scapegoating. Being a scapegoat is when somebody bears the blame for others and is subject to irrational hostility. By using the distributor as a scapegoat, it gives the person or the MLM company who is manipulating you an out by saying, well, you're not selling enough or recruiting enough because you have a negative mindset. That rhetoric causes the distributor to blame themselves, feel shame, and keeps them stuck in a cycle where they think if they just work harder and have a more positive mindset, maybe they'll see that success. Meanwhile, the company continues to take their time and money. With each company I left, I was almost immediately shunned and blocked by people I considered close friends, people I had spent the night with at retreats, built businesses with, and thought I had true friendships with. Videos were made about those of us who left, about how we were never team players to begin with, we lied about our income, and how we were selfish. Those of us who left were sent screenshots of members in the private groups bashing us and calling us names. One of my mentors and close friends even blocked me and then posted an 11-minute video on YouTube trashing those of us who walked away.
So I wanted to put in perspective everything that you're seeing, ignore it because it's busy noise from people who gave up on their teams. It's people who gave up on themselves. It's people who quit and they became disengaged in the business and everything. They're not posting that on social media. They're posting their best credentials ever. That was maybe 2 years ago. Not that they're completely falling apart because they stopped leading people. They're not sharing that story. So I don't want you all to waste your time building your dreams and your business on people who gave up. It's not worth it. Only look forward. Don't look to the sides. Don't listen to the clutter, all the monkey chatter going on. If there's a legitimate concern you have, post it below and I will debunk it, because everything you see is piss and vinegar from people who gave up. They're the players who quit on themselves and stopped showing up, and now they're blaming other people. So, but when people give up on the game, it's really hard to put those pieces back together. It's really hard to earn respect from the people they turn their back on. And so there's no other way to sell it on social media than to bash the very people they became disengaged to. Because otherwise, the only other option is to take ownership that, hey, I became disengaged and my business fell apart. And that doesn't look so great. So be wise, be mindful, think like entrepreneurs, think like the player that stays in the game. All right, guys, onward and upward, keep refining your lives, refining your business, and refining other people's lives. Take care. Love you.
I'm not going to pretend like watching that still doesn't sting. It does, as she and I were on the same team and very close. I realized later she said those things out of fear. When MLM distributors leave a company, especially when a mass exodus happens like what happened in my first company, damage control goes into overdrive. Her video surprised me the most, however, because it was only a few months before that video when she confided in me that our MLM company felt like just another pair of corporate handcuffs on her. She was a 7-figure earner who was miserable in the MLM industry, just like so many of the people I got to know at the top. In a recent post on my channel, I opened it up to take questions about my nearly 6 years in the MLM industry, a predatory industry that forever changed my life and how I see the world today. Now I'm going to answer those questions about why I believe the MLM industry is afraid of the anti-MLM community, a very specific reason why the top 1% doesn't speak out, and more. Believe me, I know I am not innocent. I recruited hundreds of women during my 5.5 years in the MLM industry. I had to get out to save my sanity, and now I share what I saw in the industry in hopes that one person might not be preyed upon. Hello and welcome back to my channel. The first question for today is, as someone whose parents have been in an MLM for over 20 years, I can tell you it affects the kids in significant ways. So in your experience in the top 1%, how did you observe the relationships of parents with their children? Were they affected by the MLM businesses? Let's be honest. Children in MLMs are used as props for a person's business, just like pets are. Anything a person has that can be exploited in an effort to recruit new people or to get sales is exploited. And I was guilty of that too. I really regret how much of my life I shared all the time and so openly. And looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even have Instagram or Facebook anymore. I deactivated my accounts. I might get Instagram back someday. Facebook became a dumpster fire this year, but yeah, it's really freeing not having those things, because I just got to this point where I was like, I don't want to post anymore when it comes to like content and like showing my life. And there's nothing wrong with that at all by any means. It's just, I got tired of it because in an MLM, anything that you can use is exploited. My ex upline in my first company told us, she trained us to make our timelines like a reality show. She said that's what she did. She, like the Kardashians. And that's how she was able to become so successful and recruit so many people, is she made it like a reality show. Reality shows show everything. Although it's not real life, they do show everything. So a lot of the top 1%, they have nannies, they have assistants, and even though the top 1% may have more time freedom, is it really freedom if your phone is constantly, in your face? I mean, in an MLM, if you are working it the way they want you to, you're always on 100% of the time. And you're always trying to show that influencer lifestyle to recruit. That's really how it is. So I think that someday in the future, we're going to see a backlash, a huge backlash from this young generation that's growing up right now against their parents because they were exploited online, whether that was, for money in an MLM or for other reasons. I think that we're going to see a big backlash. And I think that these minors who were, their lives were put online without their consent, I don't think it's going to be pretty when all that happens in the future. I hope I'm wrong. I do. As for assistants, I just remembered in my very last anti-MLM video I talked about assistants because somebody asked, what do the assistants do for the top 1%? And today is my birthday. I just turned 34. And when I was getting ready earlier, I was thinking, oh my gosh, like when I was in an MLM, and I totally forgot this until today, when it's somebody's birthday, the assistants were told to message people happy birthday, and not just assistants, like anybody online. We're supposed to message somebody happy birthday. You're not supposed to post it on their wall, but you know how like you get reminders on Facebook that it's somebody's birthday? And there's 2 reasons you're supposed to message somebody instead of posting it on their timeline. It's because the algorithm, at least the way the algorithm used to work, when you message somebody, the algorithm says, okay, these 2 people are closer than the other people who she's not messaging with. So we're going to show her or him more of that person she's messaging with in their newsfeed. So they'll see more of your post if you message them privately. The other reason is because you already have them in a private message, and therefore you can get them into your rotation to reach out to again and to form them. If you remember from one of my past videos, form stands for, what is it? Family, occupation, recreation, message. So you're supposed to ask them about, their family, what they do for their job, what they like to do for fun, and then message them. But if you've already messaged them happy birthday, then yeah, you already slid into their DMs. When it comes to exploiting anything you can online to get people to pay attention to you so that you can hopefully recruit them to your business, it just leaves you feeling icky, and your friends and family get tired of it too. Whether they tell you or not, they do notice it. It just leaves you feeling icky. The reason it leaves you feeling so icky is because you're constantly looking for any opportunity in your life to exploit. So just like a regular moment at the grocery store, you're trying to think like, how can I turn this into a post for in the next 10 minutes or whatever, like, how can I turn this into a photo op? Like, it's always in your head because you're always supposed to be thinking about recruiting. We were told to recruit anybody with skin. That pressure is a lot. And I like to call it manufactured authenticity of trying to like show this influencer lifestyle where you're constantly like staging photo ops and constantly sharing what your child does or all these little things. And at the end, it just leaves you feeling overexposed. And for me, I regretted it. Next question. I'd love to know how you feel about the anti-MLM community. How much of an effect do you think the anti-MLM movement is having in the MLM community? Are people discussing it a lot in the MLMs? Do you think it's helping to get people out or to not join? I really hope your videos have saved vulnerable people, especially during the pandemic. You wouldn't be watching my video if it wasn't for the anti-MLM community. They gave me so much strength. They still do to this day. And when I made my very first video about why I walked away, what the top 1% doesn't want you to know, I really just planned to put that video out there. And then I wanted to interview Roberta Blevins because she's the person who who really, 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 I would say gave me like the most strength, or I guess I could say somebody I resonated with the most. She was featured in the Vice documentary about leaving LuLaRoe, and she had been up near the top like I was, and she walked away, and I resonated with her story so much.
The more I shared my story, the more friends unfriended me.
And what I loved about her story was, as she was telling it, there were times where she would get tearful and she would cry, because when you leave these companies, you do leave a lot of your friends behind, or you find out that, oh, these relationships are conditional. And that's really painful. That's hard. But there was also a part in her story where she was just like, I don't care how many times I have to tell my story. I'm going to tell it because I want to take these companies down. And I was like, yes, like the fighter in me, like recognize that fighter in her who, you know, just like wants to make things right and to show how predatory these companies are. So she gave me the strength to make that first video. And then I wanted to interview her.
I think if people only knew what went on behind the scenes. Like, that's the biggest, what goes on behind the scenes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like the Tijuana Skinnies, I remember that stood out to me in the Vice. When I saw that, I was like, she's trying to get people to have weight loss surgery.
Oh yeah. A lot of my friends that got it, I was like, oh my God, you look amazing. And she's like, I got the surgery. Do you want the number? And I was like,
Was it with
like,
the
no.
CEO?
It was the same thing. She had gotten it with the sister and everything in Tijuana. Yeah, a lot of my friends got the surgery, unfortunately.
Oh gosh. And I'm not against the surgery, but the way it came about.
I probably could have been persuaded to get it too. You know what I mean? But I was like, no, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, I saw a girl in my last MLM that I left, that was my final one. They were getting tattoos together of their rank, the symbol for their high rank.
Yeah, there are multiple people that have like the LuLaRoe square, and like it looks like literally a pyramid from the top up. But like they have the LuLaRoe square on them, or they have like the watercolor. Like I knew somebody that got like the watercolors of the LuLaRoe colors with something that yeah.
Oh God, it's a cult. It's a cult.
But it started to affect us because, you know, MLMs always say, oh, it's full-time work, part-time pay, ha, ha, ha. I was on my phone from sun up till sunset. My husband's like, Bed, I'm getting texts going, someone wants to join your team. Are you awake? So we got a girl that wants to join. Get up and text this girl. She wants to join right now. Get ready. Get your join link ready at 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, this is not part-time.
No.
I'm making dinner. I'm here with my kid. My kid was not in school yet. She was 4. So she hadn't put her in preschool yet. And it was like, there was so much all the time. And I was like, I joined this so that it wasn't so much. It started to really weigh on our marriage, and we fought about a lot of things. And you spend all your time in LuLaRoe, and you're going out of town for days on end, and you're spending thousands of dollars to go to these trips. And, you know, and I was transferring thousands of dollars from my LuLaRoe account into our bank account every month. So it was like, I'm making the money, like, okay. You know, I reach out to the top people in LuLaRoe, the owners, the CEOs, we're all together. And I'm asking them, the financial guy, everybody's there. And I'm like, hey, you know, my husband is just not on board yet. And they go, well, once the money starts rolling in, he will be. I said, the money's rolling in. I've ranked up, got my stuff, I've got my team, the money's rolling in, the sales are great. I can't keep his stuff on the shelf. He's still not into it. Like, how do I get him to be more into it? And they're like, he's jealous of your success. He's jealous that you're making more money than him. And if he doesn't, you know, support you, then maybe you should find a new husband. And I was just like, whoa. You know, I look back on that now, I have a lot of guilt. I have a lot of anxiety and depression over it. I feel like I lost the first school year of my daughter's life. I was so busy. I couldn't the classroom, never got to be a parent, teacher, anything. I wasn't in the PTA. I didn't get to do that. I was so busy. It was like drop her off, go back, ship all day, take photos all day, unpack things all day. It was insane.
That was all I planned to do. It really was. And then after my first video, I had so many of you in the Anti-MLM community share your story. I mean, there's been thousands of comments and people have shared their stories, and it's beautiful and it's heartbreaking. And I realize that whether somebody was at the very top or at the very bottom, we all walked away with the same feelings, and we all walked away with the same things that had happened to us, like the love bombing, the toxic positivity, the gaslighting, just all this predatory behavior, all these cult-like tactics used on us. And that showed me, like, I saw myself in a lot of your guys' stories. Some of you guys said that you saw yourself in my story. And that kind of just like encouraged me to keep going with this, because before I was doing anti-MLM content, I had started doing like workout videos for plus size fitness, and I was a certified nutritionist and helping women battle insulin resistance. But this works out so much better because I don't like to work out. And to answer the other part of that question, yes, I do believe that the MLM community is absolutely scared of us. They're scared of the anti-MLM community because if you think about it, people in an MLM don't listen to facts, numbers, and logic, right? So for anybody who's been in an MLM, if you think about how you got into the MLM, you probably didn't get in because somebody wrote down on a paper for you or showed you the study that's on the FTC's website that says 99.4% of people lose money in an MLM. And you were like, yeah, I'm going to join that. Or somebody probably didn't say to you, hey, only 1% of people earn money in these companies, but I believe in you. You can do it. You want to join. We would be like, huh? Why would I waste my time? But it was probably somebody's story that got you into an MLM. They probably lured you in there with their story of success, or the idea of success, or the idea of friendship, or how great a product was and how you could just earn a little bit of extra money to help you. So I really like to believe that stories got them in, stories will get them out. They hear our stories and they are absolutely terrified, because I remember when I was in the industry, the anti-MLM movement wasn't as loud and strong as it is now. There weren't as many of us back then, but when somebody would post an anti-MLM video in like a private team group on Facebook or something and be like, hey, has anyone seen this? Have they heard what she said about X, Y, and Z? This makes me kind of skeptical, or like, what are your thoughts? Almost instantly, those videos were deleted. Like the whole post would be deleted by an admin, because for one, you're not supposed to question things in an MLM. That's why these things are called commercial cults, because they run like cults. And I didn't give it that name. Licensed psychologists and therapists gave it that name. They act as cults. And so in a cult, you are not allowed to question things. They're all about black and white thinking. If somebody doesn't support you, or they don't want to buy from you, or they question your company that you're in, you're supposed to cut them off. Like, that's a toxic person and you're supposed to get rid of them. So anytime somebody would post something like that in the groups, there was never a type of any type of conflict resolution or healthy conversation about what that person in the anti-MLM video said, or what they had an grievance with. And I mean, like, it's just bam, gone. So I know that they are threatened, and I get a lot of comments sometimes from people in these companies, and I hear what they say to me, and they're upset. Like, they are coming from a place of hatred because I am talking out about their company. And I understand that. Like, I would get so mad when I would hear people talk out against my company or whatever. That's just the mindset of an MLM. But yes, I believe that stories got them in, and our stories can get them out. I love that quote that says, speak even when your voice shakes. People that gave me the confidence to do this, to have this channel and share this anti-MLM content would be like Monica Sembiata, hope I said her last name right, Alonda Carter from the Recovering Hunbot. When I was on Facebook, like, I was always messaging her, and like, she was so helpful. And I love her deep dives. Madison from Cruel World Happy Mind is one. Who else? Amanda MC, love her. Let me look at my list. Oh, Munecat, however you say it. I love her. She's awesome. Taylor from the Antibot. There's so many. I'll leave a list below, okay? Like, I will leave a list of some awesome anti-MLM people to watch online or to follow, because I truly believe in this movement. And even if our US laws here aren't going to protect consumers, at least our stories will be heard and awareness will be spread. So yeah, I do think the MLM industry is absolutely scared of the anti-MLM community. Somebody asks, are you ever scared of getting sued for speaking out? I am not scared of speaking my truth, and everything I say is my opinion. Okay? Everything I say is my opinion. But I would be lying if I said that I didn't see a lot of MLM CEOs go after their top distributors when they left the company. Usually it's when they would like go to another company or try and sell something else. I saw so much ugliness behind the scenes, you guys. That's what I mean when I say I peeked behind the curtain of the 1%. It was very ugly at the top. And these CEOs who are looked at as like gods in the MLM company, I mean, they're vicious. And I saw a lot of nasty behavior. And I think I was a little shielded. I was a little protected because I was only a 6-figure earner. Whereas the 7-figure earners, the millionaires, those are the ones who are close with the CEOs. Honestly, in an MLM, if you're not a millionaire, if you're not making millions a year, like, they don't care about you. The CEOs don't care about you. They don't have anything to do with you. So I met the CEOs. I got to talk with them for a little bit, but it was never something to where they would like really notice me or anything like that, because I just wasn't on their radar because I wasn't a 7-figure earner. So I think I got kind of lucky there. So yeah, I mean, I think about it for sure, but I'm also not going to not speak out because I walked away from the industry as like a shell of the person I was. And when I just saw all these people being preyed upon when the pandemic started, I just was like, I got to speak out. Like, I got to say something. And it was really hard because I was still in that toxic negativity or that toxic positivity mindset where if I said anything negative about the MLM industry, I was worried people would think I was like this bitter old hag who didn't succeed and did horribly. And, so I was really scared to speak out, but now it's all good. Somebody asked, what was the most difficult thing in making the choice of leaving your MLM? Was it the community, the friendship, the money, etc.? For me, the most difficult thing was the community. The money, yeah, sure, up to a point, but I'm very adamant that some things just are not worth the money. And I know that some people would disagree with me and they probably think that I've never had problems or I've never lived in poverty to be able to say something like that. And that's quite untrue. I have definitely lived in poverty before. I still am adamant that some things are not worth the money. And by the time, like my last few years, I was so miserable. I was so miserable. But I just kept thinking like it was me. It was my fault that like I wasn't believing enough or that like I wasn't working hard enough or whatever. I worked myself so hard. I was having like panic attacks. It was a nightmare. The hardest thing for me in leaving was the community, because I knew that when you walk away, people don't talk to you. Like they might keep you on your friends list, sure, but they don't talk to me anymore. And I had been in for almost 6 years. I had developed some really strong relationships and I was scared of losing them, which I did, because MLMs, any friendship you make in an MLM is usually conditional. If you are able to walk away and still retain a really good friendship with somebody, that's usually the exception and not the rule. Even after I walked away, when I would feel, before I was having this channel and making videos and like diving headfirst into the anti-MLM community, which like saved me, I would get lonesome sometimes and I would think about like how I missed that community and how I missed having those like uplifting voices being like, you can do it, you can make your dreams come true, yada, yada, yada. And I would have to kind of like coach myself mentally and remind myself that those friendships, everything was fake. Like it's all conditional. If it's conditional, it's not real. You know what I mean? Not that the people were fake. not that they meant to hurt me, because it's just this cult mindset. Everyone's acting the same way. But I just had to keep telling myself, like, it's not real. It's not real. Those friendships you want, those relationships you crave, it's not real. Because if the instant you walk away from a company, somebody can't be a friend with you anymore, it wasn't real. It wasn't a real friendship to begin with. That's kind of how I got the strength to move forward, was by trying to tell myself not to react emotionally and to think logically about things. I was listening to, books and shows that were like anti-cults and written by cult experts and whatnot. And then I also had the Anti-MLM Community, which helped me so much. This question asks, what are the most damaging effects of MLMs on girls like us who are intelligent, hard workers, devoted, etc.? I mean, my doctor diagnosed me with depression and I was put on medication. I walked away from the industry completely as a shell of who I was before. Like, my confidence was gone, my self-esteem was shattered, and that just like wasn't who I was before I joined the MLM industry. Like, I was always like a really bubbly, happy person. I had built up a lot of confidence. I believed in myself, and it was night and day. It was just a complete 180 by the time I left the MLM industry, which is so interesting because when you're in the MLM industry, they're always preaching the self-help industry at you and the prosperity gospel and all this BS. I mean, it really messes with you mentally, emotionally, financially. And I felt like it was, once again, my fault when I left. I was like, why can't I get over this? Why do I feel this way? Why can't I just move on? And I would try and move on and do other things and not talk about what I experienced in the MLM industry. And it just was like eroding my soul. It was horrible. And it wasn't until I started really studying like cult manipulation tactics and things like emotional abuse, and I started listening to cult experts, and I read the book, or I listened to the book Combating Cult Mind Control by Stephen Hassan, who is a cult expert. He's a licensed therapist, and he was also in the Moonies cult back in the 70s. And it was when I listened to that, and when I also watched the show Scientology and the Aftermath with Leah Remini, I love her, that's when I realized, like, oh, this is why I feel this way. Like, most cult members who leave a cult, they feel like this. And they think it's their fault and they've internalized it. And then they also feel guilty because MLMs are interesting in the way where the victim is also the perpetrator. So you were victimized by what you were brought into, but then you also victimize other people because you brought people into it. And you didn't realize how bad that thing was, but that doesn't matter because when you get out, you feel so guilty for your part in it. Especially, I felt extremely guilty because I had been so high up and I had done it for so long. And the book Combating Cult Mind Control, I've listened to it twice now, highly recommend it. That really opened my mind. It really opened my eyes and showed me, like, okay, everything's starting to make sense. This is why you feel like you can't move on. This is why you feel like a shell of a person. Yeah, so MLMs do a number on a person. So I would say the most damaging effect to normal everyday people is having to try and rebuild after walking away from the industry, like picking up those pieces and trying to put it back together, especially because you feel so alone. Like, that community that you were so tight with, they're gone. They've been ripped away from you. So you feel alone, and that just like breeds that shame and that thought of like, is it just me? Maybe I just need to get over it. Like, why do you feel this way? But I think a big part of it is that in the US, these things are so normalized in our culture. It's really shocking because in other developed countries, they protect their consumers from these types of companies with awareness, education, and stricter laws. And leaving that industry really opened my eyes up to a lot of our non-consumer protection laws, I should say here, and how basically these pyramid schemes with products, these legal pyramid schemes are able to operate because they have so many legal loopholes. But when I left, like, you know, I had anxiety, depression, possibly a mild case of like PTSD, my doctor said, because every time I would get like a "hey girl" message online, or I would see these posts about people trying to recruit somebody, because I always know the post. Like, people don't have to say their company name. They don't have to say the product. Like, I know an MLM post when I see it now. And I would feel like so angry all over. My chest would get hot, my hands would get clammy, and I would just feel like so angry and just want to like shut down constantly. And I was constantly getting these messages and things like that, like, "Hey girl, you'd be great for my team," or So picking up the pieces and rebuilding. But one of the best things that I learned from Stephen Hassan's book, Combating Cult Mind Control, was when he said, "Show yourself grace and kindness because you were lied to. Had you have known everything you were getting into when you joined the MLM or the cult, you wouldn't have joined. You were duped. You weren't told everything in the beginning. So you didn't have all the proper information to make a right, proper, consenting choice." And so be kind to yourself. Show yourself grace. Don't feel like an idiot. Don't feel like you're stupid, because that's how I felt. And when he said that, that made so much sense to me, because I remember being trained to recruit people and not tell them everything, just to give them bite-sized pieces of information. Like, they would always say, like, "Oh, well, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time," right? So you only want to recruit people with little bits at a time, little bits of information, because otherwise they'll get overwhelmed, and you don't want to overwhelm them. And so then I train my people like that. Because, like, oh yeah, we want to recruit people and bring them into this amazing opportunity and give them this amazing gift to help them build a life of financial freedom. But if you overwhelm them, they'll run away, and then you've lost them. You've lost offering this opportunity to someone. They always make it out in this mission, like you're helping save people is basically what it is. It's you are helping people by providing them with this awesome opportunity. So get them in however you can, even if it just means giving them like little bits of information. That's what cults do, 100%. Somebody asks, "What is your new job?" When I left the MLM industry, I was a certified specialist in fitness nutrition, and my husband was a personal trainer, and we created a meal plan that helped women combat insulin resistance. I don't offer those things anymore. It also created like a fitness routine for women who couldn't do high impact things, because I have a neck injury. I can't be like doing things that have impact, jumping around, whatever. So I created that, and I loved it. And I also got a job as a licensed skin therapist. So I kept my cosmetology license up the entire time I was in the MLM industry, even after quitting my job as a hairstylist and just doing MLM full time. I still kept up my license. And in the state of Missouri, cosmetologists can work on the knee down, elbow down, and neck up. And so basically I did microdermabrasions, I did facials, taught people skincare. The only thing I couldn't do that an esthetician can do is peels. I would have to get my esthetician license to be able to do peels. I've thought about going back to school to be an esthetician. In this economy though, right now, like, that might not be so great, because who knows when people will be really jumping back on that bandwagon of, facials and whatnot. And I was furloughed back in March. And so when I got furloughed, I took a job at a mortgage company that helps provide home loans for veterans. But I would love to be able to do YouTube full time, and then maybe like some skin services on the side, because I love everything that has to do with skin, because I had really terrible skin growing up. I was on Accutane 4 times, which is like the harshest acne medicine your skin can go on. And so, yeah, I love everything to do with skin. So yeah, that's what I did after I left the MLM industry. And I remember being so scared, you guys, to go out and get a real job, which is horrible to say, but in the MLM industry, you're indoctrinated to think that JOB stands for just over broke, and which is so condescending. But that's what they teach you. They teach you that if you have a 9-to-5 or if you have a job, you know, where you are not your own boss and you're not providing people with this amazing opportunity, then you're not living right. Like that you're basically like that you're brainwashed, pretty much is what they say. That you've been taught that this is what you need to do to survive and all those people are miserable and yada yada. And I think that really does a huge disservice to think that we have to have a job that we're passionate about. That's going to leave almost anybody feeling miserable, right? Like sometimes you just need a job to pay the bills and then come home. That's what I did when I got out of the MLM industry. I was like, okay, I'm going to use my cosmetology license again. And I'm fortunate that I do love working on skincare, but I also love being my own boss. But I recognized it was what I had to do. And I just don't think that people should be made to feel bad for not being an entrepreneur, not being their own boss. It's absolutely stupid, but that's how the MLMs indoctrinate you. So I remember being I just felt like I was a failure going back into the workforce. I felt like something was wrong with me, like that I just didn't make it. But that was because of all those years of thought programming. This question says, devil's advocate question. You say a lot that the money dried up once the money became saturated. Would you have really left if you kept making good money, do you think? So I think that person got a little confused because I didn't really say like the money dried up because the market got saturated. I think that the market, the MLM industry itself became so oversaturated. And I remember when I was walking away, I remember thinking, there's no way that these MLM companies are going to keep popping up or that people are going to keep joining them because they are so oversaturated. Like everybody and their mom is in an MLM. And when I joined my first MLM company back in 2013, I didn't know anybody but maybe like one or two people, and I didn't even really know them personally. I just knew them like through other people that were in an MLM. I didn't really know anybody that was doing it. And so by the time I left 5.5 years later, I was like, everyone is doing this. What's happening? Like, there's no way that they're going to keep going. They did. And MLMs are known to thrive when people are desperate. So MLMs thrive especially during recessions and times of economic strife like we're in right now. The last company I was in, like it kind of imploded on itself and our income like shot down. And I remember like feeling freaked out, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my bills? Like our money was, it was like 60-70% of my income was like gone. And the MLM was like gaslighting, or the CEO was gaslighting us and telling us we just needed to work harder. And so that's when I switched to a different MLM because the CEO's behavior was abhorrent and needed money to live. I would like to say that had that money have not went away, that I would have walked away, right? Like I would have loved to say that. I know that I eventually would have walked away because my health was getting really bad. My doctor wanted to put me on high blood pressure medication. My blood pressure was like through the roof, and I was the smallest, fittest I had ever been in my life. And yet my doctor was like, something's up, like your blood pressure is crazy. I think that had my sister in Kenya not have graduated from her university, where she got a degree in education, I think I would have felt compelled to stay in because I wouldn't want to tell her, like, you need to stop school for a while. Like, you have to wait. But I got fortunate because about a year before I walked away, she graduated. So I did leave. I was just like, I was done with it. Like I said, the money, I just was like, I don't care. Like I'm leaving. So that's my honest opinion there. Like, I think that with somebody depending on me, it would have been a lot harder to leave, and I might have stayed, you know? But I don't know, because that didn't happen to me. So yeah. But I think that I see a lot of people, when I was I saw a lot of women and men who they would get high up like I did, or even higher, and they would all of a sudden like start to transition into life coaching or business coaching. And I can make so many other videos on that and that industry. But I would see them like try and shift. And I remember thinking like, oh, like they're getting tired of this industry too. Like they're wanting to leave it too, but they don't want to lose that income. And so they wouldn't talk negatively about the MLM industry, even though they were so over it. Like, cause the top 1% talks to each other. Like they did. And they were totally over it. But the goal is when you leave your MLM industry or you want to leave the MLM industry, you're supposed to still try and monetize your following, because anybody that is that high up, they're going to have a following, and you're supposed to try and monetize it. You can't speak out against the MLM industry, because then your entire following is going to get mad at you and you're not going to be able to monetize it. But if you sell them courses saying, this is how I've been successful in the network marketing industry, and if you do these 10 things like I did that I teach you about in my secret course, then you can have this success too. Or they become like a mindset coach to teach you how to have that positive mindset that has helped them earn all the success that they've got. And that then they can monetize that following. And so that's what a lot of them do. They also hope to be able to stay in the MLM, to be able to keep that residual income coming in, but not really work it and focus more on the courses and whatnot to sell and monetize their following. I got to the point, like, I didn't want to teach people how to be better in an MLM. I remember getting asked if I could coach people to help them have the success that I did. And I just was like, in my head, I thought, I already feel like I'm recruiting to fail. I'm not going to coach people on this because I don't believe in this anymore. I had come to that point in my MLM career where I became disillusioned with the industry because I got to peek behind the 1%. And I was like, this is so evil. So yeah, when I came out of the anti-MLM closet and I finally shared my videos like on my Facebook timeline and whatnot, I got a lot of hate. I got a lot of people who were just saying I was negative and bitter and, I didn't understand what I was saying or yada yada. Or I'll still get people who will say like, you're just doing YouTube as a cash grab. That's what you're doing it for now. You're scamming people now, just like you did when you're in the MLM industry. I understand if people, especially in the anti-MLM community, like don't want to accept me because I did do a lot in the MLM industry. I get that. Like, I thought everybody in the anti-MLM community would hate me. I feel very grateful that I've had so many people support me, and be so kind. But when I do get those comments, like it comes with the territory and I'm like, they have every right to feel that way. Like, I get it. I understand why they feel that way. They probably don't trust me, and that's completely their opinion. It's valid. I get it. Like, I understand it. But I just could not try and sell a course about an industry that I hated and that made me miserable. Once I became disillusioned with it, once I realized like, oh no, like this is not a place where actually like nobody wins, really. Nobody wins. Even the millionaires, they are very unhappy. And it's sad. Like, it's sad because you're told it's going to be so great. You're going to have all this financial freedom. Everything's going to be amazing. And it couldn't be further from the truth. So I will end here. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.